Welcome to this Times Techies webinar. I'm Sujit John, and I have with me my colleague Shilpa Phadnis. The two of us will moderate the discussion. We hope you and your families are staying safe and doing well. Our discussion today is on how AI can help build a sustainable future. And the discussion is in association with Capgemini. Sustainability is now an integral part of corporate discourse. Many governments and companies are trying to find ways to ensure they are conducting operations in ways that don't harm the environment, ensure gender equality, ensure development for all. Our discussion today will look at how technology can be used for good. And to discuss this, we have with us three seasoned professionals.
We have with us Chandrasekhar Balasubramaniam. Chandra is Vice President in the Insights and Data Business line in Capgemini, India. He leads the data sciences and analytics practice. His interests lie in driving the development of real-world applications of large-scale machine learning, big data, deep learning algorithms. Chandra has authored more than 15 international publications in top American journals in computational and data science and holds 5 patents. Welcome, Chandra.
Thank you.
We have Nitin Gupta. Nitin is the head of public services and sustainability at Capgemini Invent. Capgemini Invent is Capgemini Group's digital innovation consulting and transformation entity. As the sustainability lead, his charter is to take the group's portfolio offerings, including net zero climate strategy, new business models, sustainability supply chain operations and IT, to clients, enabling them to achieve their sustainability goals. Prior to Capgemini, Nitin was at IBM, Accenture, Wipro, PwC, and TCS. Welcome, Nitin.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
And we have Samir Pise. Samir is Chief General Manager at Volkswagen IT Services. He has 24 years of IT and business experience in automating and digitizing enterprises. He has been in leadership roles and has helped solidify profitable executive level relationships at successful organizations in the IT and automotive domain. He has also worked at Bentley Motors, Tech Mahindra, and T-Systems. Welcome, Samir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Those who are viewing this can send in questions through the Facebook comment box. Shilpa and I will put them to Chandra, Nitin, and Samir. Nitin, let me ask you first, and you have a short a little presentation as well. When we think of sustainability, and this has been true for me as well, when we think of sustainability, typically we think of the environment, but that is not, environment is not the only thing that is generally talked about when we talk about sustainability. So, tell us, when companies and governments think about sustainable futures, what are the things that they look at, and how is AI enabling us to meet goals for a sustainable future?
Yeah, thanks. Is my screen visible?
Not yet. I think it's coming on.
Hi.
Why isn't it visible? It says Nitin Gupta Capgemini Invent has started screen sharing, but not getting it. Shilpa, not visible, no?
Yes, sharing has started, but the slides are not up yet.
Nitin, can you just turn off and turn on again? The screen has also frozen, is it?
I'm sorry. Am I back?
Yeah, you are back. You are back, but your screen is not. Just try again.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Let me just do that. This is where the technology also, plays the Murphy's Law. I'm sorry, everyone. What you were asking was, sustainability is just not, as people think about environment, it also covers economic and social aspects. And, these all three pillars are closely connected. And, and there are several definitions of sustainability. What we will do is, we'll just get into, what the UN or the world leading bodies are, thinking about, that how to obtain the sustainable future. And they have defined, 17 such SDG goals, as we say. If you look at each of these boxes, they are talking about certain goals, no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, water, life on land. It contains, not only the environment part, but also the social part, and the governance aspect as well. And all of this now is being, looked after, and AI is playing a huge role. Now, if I had to bring in, AI, and I had to talk about both from an environment point of view as well as from a social point of view, and how, the technology is, playing a role. I mean, if you see this slide, we are talking about AI food and zero hunger. We are talking about AI for information. We are talking for AI for environment. We're talking for AI for justice, which we are going to talk more about in this talk. And we are talking about AI for health. I mean, so all of these combined together, is, essentially addressing the UN SDG goals. And therefore, Sujit, sustainability is not just about climate and water and drought and all, but it's also more to do with, the entire paradigm of the society, which covers economic, it covers social, it covers climate. Yeah.
Okay. So what is this? I mean, sustainability and business objectives, can they move together? You often think that sustainability put extra costs on the on business. What is your sense?
Samir, would you like to go first?
Well, I think if you look at the industrial revolution, it has been transforming over the last many decades. Probably it was a slow start when it comes to putting sustainability at the center stage in line with the business strategy and the vision and missions that the corporates have been putting in. But if you look at it in the recent past, some of the key elements are about materiality assessment, and the sustainability narrative has been taking a radical shift in terms of making sure that we take care of all those aspects that are critical for the future generations, and in a sense which is inclusive growth, in a sense where it's a better planet for the future generation, in a sense where the workforce realities of today and tomorrow are kept into mind at all times. I think overall it is becoming an imperative for the businesses, and which is a positive sign. This is going to go a long way for the inclusive growth in general. This is what I certainly feel.
Okay. Nitin?
Yeah, I'm a slide man, so I will just go back, to the slides, and just what Samir said. Okay. I mean, if you just look at these numbers, I mean, earlier, when you used to look at sustainability, people used to confuse it with CSR, the mandatory 2% of the net profits, which you have to spend. And in more or less, when you say this, that whether, sustainability is, an afterthought for business, or it's now become an imperative. If we had to think from that perspective, I mean, 66% of the consumers, are willing to pay a premium price for sustainable products. I mean, the millennials, their interest levels on sustainability is, completely gone, through the roofs. 33% of the H&I clients who invest in sustainable companies because they are, sounding less speculative. I mean, even the stakeholders and the engagement, the shareholders, are demanding, their corporates, their organizations to become more sustainable and all. And these are just, in numbers. I mean, if I had to, quickly, talk about, what we are doing, from an organization perspective, I mean, the very purpose statement, at Capgemini is unleashing human energy through technology for an inclusive and sustainable future. I mean, if you see at the background of my screen, I mean, get the future you want. And that's all about sustainability. So, I mean, it begins right, from our DNA. It's in our DNA. I mean, the acquisitions which we are doing, the thought which our CEO has, the net zero climate, targets which we have, the pillars of sustainability which we are not only preaching, to our clients, but also, we are inside the organization as well. So it is no longer an afterthought. It's an absolute imperative, and I don't think any organization can go ahead, without even thinking that, on the sustainable goals at all.
Samir, this would be true for Volkswagen also, I guess, no? I mean, these are kind of integrated into all that you do.
Absolutely. This is very much at the center of our strategy. We are looking at 2025, where we have set ourselves on ambitious targets of sustainability narrative. And it is absolute imperative, especially about zero carbonization. It's mainly about having overall evolving an ecosystem which will help not only the environment, but from an innovation standpoint, from a technology evolution standpoint. How can we transform our circular economy? How can we transform ourselves to have a digital transformed workforce, a supply chain which will be much more environment and health friendly, and which is sustainable, using cloud in our technology landscape roadmap. These are some of the key elements which are very much at the center stage.
Okay. Shilpa?
This question is to bring in Chandra and Nitin. It seems clear that a higher purpose has become an important part of the business strategy. How is technology helping businesses in this regard, and how are consumers looking at purpose-driven companies?
Yeah, let me take that question. So earlier, when you look at the organization's motives, right, people used to focus only on the profits. But today, the definitions have changed, and purpose has taken over the profit. So many organizations now, when they are seen at the center, and you have a lot of stakeholders. Earlier, only the shareholders of the organization was the main important factor and considered as the prime important shareholder. But today, later it expanded to employees. But today, what is happening is that organizations are embracing the communities surrounding them. They're also considering environment as one of their important things that they will have to focus on. Similarly, when you are using a lot of technology as well as AI into their business, the fairness and bias will creep in. So in order to control all that, some of the organizations have in fact already defined the levels of fairness that they should adhere to in order to promote their business. That means profits is not the only motive. For example, some of the media houses have banned promoting the cosmetics on the name of just fairness, right? So like that, the purpose has now taken over, and majority of the organizations have started learning how to scale their organization from the definitions of the sustainability from all dimensions, not just on the profit. Of course, profit is one of the important things, but people have realized that there is much more beyond that. So many organizations have modified their mission and vision statements to include sustainable growth, and that includes the 17 SDGs that Nitin has mentioned.
Technology, how is that helping, Chandra?
Yeah, technology is basically one of the tools in order to achieve all these goals, right? So the 17 SDGs that you talked about will in fact cover all these aspects of sustainable future. So the technology can be brought in, at every level, at every SDG, which we will be discussing in detail as we move forward in this call. So I have a lot of examples to share on most of those items. I can highlight about how the technology is used, for example, in the area of justice, in the area of healthcare, right, in the area of ethical AI. All that I can talk about with good examples at appropriate time.
Okay, we'll do that later. Nitin, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and one of the slides comes back on. I mean, we ran a worldwide survey across 7,000, customers of ours. We ended up interviewing and, interacting with around about 1.5 million social media consumers and all. And these were, the highlights of the research. I mean, this was run by the Capgemini Research Institute. Consumers have high expectations of what it means to be purpose-led. Consumers will reward organizations that contribute during this health crisis. And we're specifically talking about the pandemic and COVID. And consistency in how companies live their purpose is critical. And if you look at just the numbers, I mean that they speak, a lot. 78%, of the consumers are saying that companies have a larger role to play in society than just looking after their self-interest. 69% are saying then they expect private organizations to give back to society when there's a major crisis such as the current pandemic, 75% of the consumers are saying that they will purchase exclusively or more from companies that give back to society during this health crisis. I mean, I don't need to say more, as to, how important, these purpose-led organizations, have become and how they are winning over the consumer hearts as well.
Okay.
Right. Samir, to bring you in here, how do you think the pandemic has changed discussion around sustainability? If you can give us a perspective from the automotive world. Samir, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. I thought unmuted. COVID-19 in many ways have given us a lot of direction, and at the heart of it is health and well-being of the employees. There's no doubt whatsoever. It takes precedence over everything else. And in the automotive industry, or in general within the corporate world, there is greater importance about employee health and well-being, and not just the employee health and well-being. It is also about the families of the and the entire system which allows employee to flourish in an organization. I think that's one of the key elements that COVID-19 has given us a right direction. And specifically in case of automotive industry, if I look at sustainability or in general about COVID-19, these are key elements around things that I mentioned earlier, circular economy, digital transformation. We are looking at transforming our organization in a significant way towards keeping it ready, making it sure that we are a sustainable business for the future, shaping the mobility for the future generation, that being at the center stage for the strategic element that we are running the organization with.
Electric vehicles and all are part of that?
Absolutely. Electric vehicles are absolutely part of that. And specifically when we talk about innovation, when we talk about AI, one of the examples that I could cite here is smart charging systems. Having a smart robot, for example, which will convert as a possibility, all the parking lots could possibly be converted into smart charging stations, where you could think of having an app where you could just book when you are getting into the parking lots at those common places, shopping malls or events, big events where you are attending a concert or a football match. All those parking lots, you could, using an app, you could book yourself for charging. And then the smart charging robots and the ecosystem, which will decide how best to fetch the electricity. Looking at the past usage trends of the vehicle, you could decide how much time you need to give to charge it for something called as range anxiety, which is very pertinent point when it comes to electric vehicles. And all of the range anxiety problems could be solved using AI, text analytics, and especially the algorithms that go behind and the usage patterns and the demographic scenario, overall the environmental conditions. All of that baked into a nice smart charging system could be a classic example. That is where AI plays a bigger role, especially in the electric mobility. And of course, in the charging, overall, the charging space, there is a lot of research happening to make it as fast and as less hazardous as possible.
These parking things and all are already available in places, or is it in the works?
Well, there are pilots which are being done, but specifically Volkswagen Group Components, one of the group companies within Volkswagen, has already developed a charging robot, which will take into consideration some of those algorithms where you don't have to, you just go there, park your car, and then schedule an appointment for your charging, and then the rest, with the use of autonomous driving and the smart charging, the robot will take care. By the time you come back, your car will be charged. And I think this is going to be absolutely pertinent when it comes. Right now, perhaps not. Right now, we do have the conventional vehicles, but the number of electric vehicles are going to increase over the next 5 to 10 years. And with that, the need to charge those vehicles on a regular basis is going to multifold, and that need needs to be addressed by the automobile industry, that's for sure.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Chandra, I wanted to ask you that last year the Supreme Court launched this Supreme Court portal for assistance in court efficiency. It's an AI-based portal to help, deliver effective, automate some of the judicial processes. So can you talk about some of the use cases globally for AI in judiciary?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI in judiciary is basically one of the things that is picking up in the industry, especially when we talk about application of artificial intelligence in the judiciary. People think that we are going to replace the judge, right? But that's not the case, because judge has to follow certain processes which have been defined in the law, and he will definitely follow that process. So where actually the AI can bring in and help the judges, we'll have to see this in different ways, like what part of the work that judge does, right, can be automated with the AI. For example, you can use AI in order to gather the information and present it to the judge. That is one level. Next level, in fact, AI can also understand what is there in that information and provide a recommendation to the judge, so that judge can assess that information and then take a call on it. The third one is that it will directly predict what is going to be the judgment, and as per the AI tool, it's nothing but an artificial judge. It will give its recommendation saying that this is my judgment. Then judge can also compare his wisdom with respect to the judgment provided by the artificial judge. So you have various levels of usage of this AI tool in the judicial process. But I'm sure we have not yet reached the level of replacing a judge with an AI tool, which is going to be detrimental at this point of time, given the state of the art of the technologies that we have. So the progress would be slowly, in terms of analyzing the information and presenting it, and then go to advise mode, and then go to predicting the judgment outcome, and then giving a recommendation based on. So that is one use case. Other use cases are very popular, in terms of traffic citations and dispute settlement, gathering the information, so case histories. China has recently developed one of the AI tool for judicial systems to pull all the case histories and create a summary for the judges, so that those summaries would be used as a reference in order to provide their judgments. So like this, there are many use cases, and it depends upon, as I mentioned, it is only used to reduce the complexity of the judicial process. It is not for replacing the judicial process. So how complex your process is, and how you can apply AI in order to automate the simple things. Like, for example, if a person is going on the road without a helmet, you don't need to run that case if you have an AI tool, for weeks. What you can do is that you can apply that. It's a very low risk case, basically. Even if you err in the judgment by the AI tool, it doesn't harm anybody. Right. So if you want to put a fine, the face recognition system can definitely read the image from the video, and it can assign some kind of a fine to that person, and then it ends, right? Otherwise, it has to stand in the court and people have to go, judge has to spend time. You have almost 3.8 crores of cases pending in India today. So you can't resolve all those cases if you purely depend only on the process that we are following today. So we'll have to innovate new methods, first of all, and find ways to bring in AI at appropriate stages in the judicial process. So with that, you can at least now start slowly accelerating the automation of the judicial process with AI tools.
How difficult is it? There's a lot of data available, I guess, to do these kind of AI models, no?
Absolutely. The challenge here is that AI systems only understand digitally readable or computer readable text. But most of our documents, the 3.8 cases that I talked about, most of the data or the information is present in the form of a written text on the pages. So you have to read it. Of course, that is possible to read that data and convert that into machine readable text and then further do it. But processing all the data, digitizing the data would be a challenge. Otherwise, unless you complete that process, you can't start creating the case histories and analyzing the information. Or if you wanted to access the past judgments, that is not possible until and unless you have all the information available in digitally readable format.
Is
So
that
that's
happening in
what-
India now? Is that happening? Are they trying to
I think the
digitalize?
Honorable Supreme Court has already taken initiation in order, or a step forward in order to bring in the AI into their judicial process. So probably that might have started. I do not have much information on that.
Okay, okay.
Sorry, Sujit.
Yeah, go on,
AI
go on,
tools
Shilpa.
are effective in handling that element of bias because there were a few, discussion points previously when some of the AI tools couldn't handle, make decisions based on some of the grave concerns of the society. So, do you think they're trained enough to handle the element of bias?
Yeah, so that is what I said. We cannot hand over the entire process of judgment to the AI systems. So if we do that, then we are going to do, commit blunders. So we have to stop at only, we have to use the AI to only present the information to the judge, and judge will apply his wisdom, as I mentioned. So he will apply all the principles of natural justice and then give the judgment, right? So if you directly give all the control to the AI systems, definitely, there may be bias in their judgment because the data that it is learning from might be biased, right? There might be bias in the judgments in the past, or even though assuming that there is no bias in the judgment, in the past judgments, the data that you are giving may be biased. So that means I only give a partial data because I do not have access to the complete data. So in such case, the AI system's judgment will be always biased because you have learned from a biased data. But if you have a judge sitting on the bench and reading all the content that the AI system is providing to him, and then he will apply all the principles of natural justice, and then it is acceptable to the people. But if a AI system gives the judgment, the main problem with the AI system is the explainability. It can't tell you why it has given the judgment. It will only tell you that this is the judgment, but there is no reasoning behind that, right? So the affected party will not believe that, because you're not giving the explanation why you have sentenced, right, that person. So then the trust will fall. People will start losing the trust on the AI systems. So then what happens is, as I mentioned, we cannot hand over everything of the judgment process to the AI systems. Rather, we have to limit it. Maybe 30 to 60% of the work that presently manually done that can be automated with the AI system, and just present it to the judge, so that the judge will take a right decision based on the data.
Nitin, Samir, you want to pitch into that? I mean, the ethics of AI, Samir?
I think specifically in case of ethics of AI in the judiciary system, some of the key elements would be about the fundamental rights. So data privacy could be one of them. Making sure that equal treatment is given according to all the involved parties, that the data that is fed into the AI algorithms is done in a manner where equal treatment is kept at the center of it. Besides that, it's also important that a certain amount of user control on the AI is right there, because if it's a standard case of regular divorce or parental authority, or solving a traffic dispute, which heavily relies on the input-output driven type of system, then it becomes much more easier to create an advisory for the judicial system to give those decisions much quicker. But when it comes to handling complex human issues and disputes, you really need to be careful, especially in the judiciary system, because you're talking about emotions of people, you're talking about the larger impact that both the parties will have. So like Chandra stated, it could be in terms of advisory, it could be in terms of predictive justice system, and there are those pilots which are being done in America or Netherlands, or in Canada. British Columbia University is doing some of those. And those systems are evolving. And I'm pretty sure that it will help. The AI is bound to help the judiciary system in a significant way in the days to come by. But the ethical aspect of humans, the society, will have to be kept in mind at all times.
Okay. Nitin, I wanted to ask you, I mean, this whole this pandemic, I mean, in fact, I remember some people saying, I mean, India has such phenomenal technology companies, IT companies, and all of that. Couldn't we have had an AI model which predicted the second wave? I mean, so what? I mean, was it lack of data at that point? And in future, can we expect AI to deal with these kind of pandemics much better?
Yeah, that's like a $1 million question, right? Right, Sujit. Who could have? I mean, probably it was always on the cards. I mean, there was data, there was insights, there were indicators, which were leading. I think it was more of a political aspect or a issue, with the what's happening in Australia, for example. I mean, they're not liking the lockdown and there are protesters on the street, right? I mean, we said that, the second wave is on the anvil, the data and the analytics and everything was predicting it. There was a lot of research, which probably Chandra can also, allude to, which had these predictive modeling coming in, and, there were tons and tons of data, which were suggesting that, it is going to hit hard. But then, I mean, the challenges or the issues with such information is that, how the policymakers, or how you yourself adapt it, right? So if people still want to party or they still want to do a Kumbh Mela or anything of that sort, I mean, you can't help. And now, the data is suggesting that, there's going to be a third wave. People are waiting in anticipation. It has already hit Europe, and US and most part of the world. And now again, the feeling is still on now that where is the third wave? Has it still hit India or it still hasn't? Chandra, you want to add something more, on the modern part and all?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. See, today, if you see the current situation, I would say that the AI has helped a lot in order to contain the spread of the disease. Though the damage was high, but it could have been much higher if AI systems were not present. One example is that, many universities started predicting how many new cases would come in the next week or next month and when the wave is going to fall down. All those predictions has helped the government in order to plan properly and take necessary steps. Even today, we are saying that third wave is going to come, but it is getting postponed continuously. The reason is that people are taking enough measures in order to postpone that. So that means, AI is indirectly helping, and because of the AI and forecasting tools, that we are able to, contain the spread, contain the, example of controlling the pandemic is through contact tracing. That is an AI tool, basically, right? You can monitor, efficient monitoring can be done, right, with AI tools. And I heard one of the apps, especially from China, that AI for COVID, I think the name is. What it does is that with that app, if you just cough 2 times in front of the phone, it will tell whether is there any symptom of COVID in that. So you don't need to wait for longer times for getting the results out of your test. And then probably what happens is that everybody has to just cough twice in front of the phone every day morning. And if there is any negative result coming in, they don't need to go out and they can contain the spread and everything gets limited to that particular house or to that set of people. So that way, if you really start implementing these AI tools, in fact, the Arogya Setu app has got a lot of good features. The contact tracing was one of the best features that we have seen. So like this, all are AI applications that are in fact in place today, and it has helped the humanity or the mankind to control the pandemic so far. But people also learned a lot of lessons out of it that, especially in dealing with the pandemic in the hospitals and lack of enough or inadequate healthcare facilities, all those things, in fact, has given another important call, to invest into the technology and automate some of the processes so that the healthcare staff will not focus on the regular stuff that they do, which can be automated. And people started building tools there, and healthcare personnel will focus on the other stuff. So that way, with the limited resources, now you can bring in technology and AI in order to augment the capability of the healthcare staff.
Okay. Samir, you wanted to add anything to that? Samir, you're muted, no?
I would just say that it's not $1 million question. It's probably zillion trillion dollar question whether whether we will be able to predict what is the next wave. However, I'm optimistic that with the research and the technology enablement that is happening in the genetic engineering space, the mutations I do believe can be predicted to a certain extent. The degree of accuracy could be evolving over a period of time. And the mutation of all the viruses should be a distinct possibility in near-term future where one would be able to predict how severe and when. And this is likely to help the society and the world to take those proactive measures. And some of those things that have evolved over the last 1.5 years, which by the way, is a paradigm shift, the way we have looked at healthcare, be it insurance. These things are certainly going to help together with the advancements in genetic engineering, the technology advancements. I do believe the next pandemic, we will be much better equipped to deal with. Touch of optimism, but yes, I think there is a good amount of research and effort that's being put in globally.
Okay, now very interesting. Nitin, Chandra saying already AI being used extensively.
I mean, and it's just not the the pandemic. I mean, it's all for all the natural disasters also, right? I mean, AI is being now continuously used for climatic stuff, fires or earthquakes or tsunamis and all. So, I mean, yes, I mean, the pandemic, currently the COVID has our largest mind share, but AI is actually, helping in all those causes as well.
Predict or what wildfires and earthquakes and all of that, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Chandra, we've heard about, self-learning systems in AI. With that kind of agency provided to AI, can we make sure that we don't end up in a dystopian scenarios like the ones portrayed in the Terminator movies? So this question is for all of you. Chandra can go first. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to build an AI system, right, the main and the foremost important thing is the learning, right? If you take out the learning part, it becomes a normal software because you are going to feed the rules that the software has to follow and it just executes, right? But if you are bringing in this learning part, then it becomes an AI system because it's an intelligent part of the system. So now if you leave everything to the AI system to learn itself from the data, today we are making the system to learn and I am controlling the data. I'm controlling how the systems should learn the data, right? To learn the patterns from the data. But if you leave that part also to the systems, definitely it is going to backfire. So, but how can we automate this? So there are two phases. One is the building phase, another is the testing phase, right? You can still automate the process of self-learning. You can leave the systems to self-learn from the data, which we cannot control because every day the data that is being generated or created by the communities is it's exponential, right? So every day it is doubling, tripling. Like that, the huge amounts of data is coming in. So you can't manually control the amount of data and you can't control the learning of the AI systems from the data, right? So what we can do is that you can put a phase called testing phase before you release that AI systems into the market. So that testing is very important and you have to build your test plans in such a way that I don't want the AI system to, give any biased result against a certain race or religion or, any community. I don't want the accuracy to fall less than this. You can put all your controls. I don't want, the AI systems to give recommendations that will damage the environment, right? Like this, you can put all your test plans and control whether the AI system should go into the market or not. That's the only simple thing that we'll have to do instead of just controlling the learning part, which is very, very difficult. And it is also not efficient. And if you control the testing part, then it is easy for us to see. It's like a regulator coming and saying that this particular drug should be used or should not be used. Similarly, if you are in a bank, then the regulatory agencies in the banking industry also comes and puts some regulations in order to control how those processes must be used that should not affect the human beings, right? At the end of the day. But today, what is happening is we don't have such controls for the AI usage of the AI systems. So I am expecting in future such a regulatory agency will come in and it will define how an AI system should be built and how it should be tested and how it should be monitored when it is performing in the field. So based on that, then all the things will come into control. But today, there's no control on it. Everybody builds a system, releases into the web, and people start using it. And then that's the reason why it may go into the kind of example that you have given. But if you really put it testing phase, definitely we can avoid that.
Nitin, Samir, want to pitch in there?
Samir, yours.
Yeah, I think it is true that what you would train the machine, it would do exactly the same. There are no two ways about it. So as long as your training is in a manner which is meaningful, which is taking care of all the security aspects, which is taking care of all the ethical aspects, the machine will do what is expected. That's what AI is all about. But if you're training and if you do not have enough training data set, then it is likely to have multiple permutations and combinations. Sometimes it might fail, where you may have to intervene and make sure that those necessary on-the-fly corrections are done. And that's how the AI systems will evolve. And especially in case of automobile industry, when we are looking at connected cars, where practically it is possible now to control all the, give all those instructions, which typically the chip in the car can take and do all those functions. When you look at the autonomous driving bit, it is practically right now possible to do all those functions that the humans can do. But when you look at the information security aspect of it, when those controls are hacked by a hacker, then it practically you are exposing the passengers inside the automobile to and the surrounding system to a great deal of safety risk as well. So it is absolutely important to regulate. It is absolutely important to strike a balance, look at those use cases and evolve the autonomous way, the assistance that you want to provide specifically in case of automobile in a manner which is going to be evolving over a period of time, which is going to help build a system which is sustainable.
Yeah, information security you mentioned. That's exactly a question that I have from the one of our viewers, Himaja. When data is digitized and we expect AI to automate some of the processes and take decisions, how can we ensure it's safe and doesn't get hacked to change outcomes? Nitin, want to go?
No, we're watching too many Hollywood movies and probably predicting, what's happening in the. So I'll again go on my favorite part, presenting a slide. I mean, I believe that this slides essentially answers and also corroborates, what Chandra and Samir just said. It's essentially, how are you establishing a foundation of ownership of ethical issues and setting up strong internal processes so that the AI system, is adhering, the question, on how is it safe, from an information security point of view. So robust and safe AI, right? Controllable AI with clear accountability, or AI with carefully delimited impact. These are some of those, very specific, actions which needs to be built and used into these robust AI systems. Of course, with everything going on, with the coronavirus itself probably being coming out of a lab, or the connected cars themselves probably driving and taking over the world and all. So those are future aspects and all. But I do believe that if you follow probably certain frameworks and all, which again both Samir and Chandra mentioned, this is pretty much in control and will only do good, and increase more trust. Some of the numbers suggest that in 2018, only 32% of the end users trusted AI, and now that number in 2020, the last year's outputs are on, and they say 49% now trust AI. So it's on an uprise, but then how are we making sure that it's well within the realm? But I will ask Chandra, if he wants to just add on the information security or the specific question from the audience.
Yeah, definitely. So it's same as what I already said. What is there in the data that we don't know, because the data is in millions of records, right? It's not manually possible to read and understand every record before we put it to the training, right? So what we should do is that you apply your mind to see that where you are collecting the data from and what kind of information is there in the data, whether it is vulnerable for any kind of hacking and all that. You apply your mind and just go ahead and build the model. And how you can control is only through testing again. You have to write a good test plan in order to capture, these kind of pitfalls in the system that you have built. And based on that, you have to take a call, right? Then you have to go back and fix all the bugs. Right? If you don't do the testing, if you rely only on the learning part and saying that whatever system I have built is now clean in every aspect of ethical AI that Nitin has shown, in that human oversight of the AI systems is one of the important factors in that slide if you had observed. So if you do not want to consider that one, then we will get into the problems. But the testing part, if you really take care of, then you can address all these kind of problems, not just the security aspect, but also the ethical aspects as well.
Samir, your cars and all are totally safe, huh?
Absolutely, they are absolutely safe.
So multiple redundancies and all that, is it? How do you ensure that? In these very automated ones?
Well, I think when it comes to the automated ones, self-driving cars, these are evolving, and these are right now many prototypes are going on. These are not yet to the level that you probably might have in your mind. I think we are still checking, we are still carefully looking at various scenarios, how the usage patterns will evolve when it comes to autonomous driving, whether it makes sense to have a combination of multiple ecosystems. When you are going from A to B, it's essentially a mobility service that you're going to provide. And it's not just about cars. It could be a combination of a car, a train, or to a certain extent, some public transports as well in the local areas. And you have to use AI, you have to use autonomous driving, where you are making sure that the risk exposure of the passengers is the lowest. For example, within the city limits, you probably would like to give more control to the driver. And then when you are going on the motorways, where with the help of AI, where you are able to look at the consumption, the number of cars or vehicles on the road, then you can gradually increase the level of self-driving within the car, and to the highest possible extent, where some of the car interior could be changed, where when you are sitting in a driver's seat while being in the city, when you are in a motorway, you could actually convert that into a semi-reclined seat, which could allow you to watch a nice television movie or things like that. So that's the future, of course. But in general, the approach that's being taken is look at the usage patterns, look at the extraneous factors, and adapt those solutions, technology-enabled solutions. Safety, passenger safety is absolutely the important element in all of this.
Okay. Shilpa, you had something?
Yeah. I just wanted to ask Nitin, in terms of energy and sustainability, if you can talk about, some of the demand supply scenarios that you predicted, intelligent grid systems. If you can talk about some case studies that you've come across.
We have actually, we are the architects of positive future is what we say. And one of the initial steps, which we took as a part of energy and sustainability, was to actually partner with leading energy firms across Europe. I mean, we are a French multinational, and in Western Europe is and all, that's where, we have, tied up with around 17 such, energy leading companies. We were a part of the Global Energy Summit and all, where we presented the views and all. And now, what's happening is that we have dedicated some 275 dedicated lab engineers, on one side of the globe, which are continuously working on these energy transitions and sustainability and energy, going along, So, when you talk about sustainability, I mean, there's a lot of also, thought process, which says that it has to do with energy and utilities. I mean, if you look at the oil and gas companies, if you look at the other utility companies, I mean, their basic DNA is emission, right? I mean, if an ONGC or a BPCL is producing oil or gas, which is supposed to pollute the planet, I mean, how do they rectify, the entire situation? So is it like a carbon offsetting part? Are they now getting into, hydrogen fuels? Are they now talking about, future tech, which will, I mean, like what Samir talked about, the electric vehicles and all. I mean, that itself is a solution, to those aspects and all. So there is a huge amount of, collaboration, which has happened, and the energy part and the sustainability part are going hand in hand. Chandra, any more views on the energy part?
I think a lot of work is happening by the electricity generation and distribution companies, basically in order to understand the patterns of consumption and where the theft is happening. And the theft is one of the important things that many of the distribution companies are suffering today. And in order to conserve that, like for example, which part of the city there is more consumption, which part is less consumption, and how do you reduce the consumption by the other part of the city, so that you don't need to generate that much extra electricity, and you can conserve the fuel basically, and you reduce the carbon emissions. So that way, a lot of studies are going on the electrical energy side in terms of generation as well as the distribution, and also especially on the housing side, on the energy consumption, what should be the minimum amount of lighting required. And a lot of these companies which produces bulbs and appliances for household consumption, so they're also doing a lot of research in order to reduce the consumption of electricity at home. So the overall goal there is to reduce the amount of carbon emissions at the end of the day. Like for example, if you reduce the electricity consumption at your home, then the electricity generated will come down, and hence you don't need to burn more of fossil fuels, right? So that's the idea. So everything that is related to electricity can be finally linked to the conservation of the environment. And we are doing a lot of such work for our clients.
Yeah, I mean, if I just had to show this quick slide, I mean, this is what I was talking about. The lab itself is supported by more than 200 energy experts, and it's a unique experience. It's called the Energy Strategy Lab, and that's where everything related to energy, aspects and all is being taken care of. And I mean, CAP is actually a part of InnoEnergy, and that's an innovation energy for sustainable energy across Europe. And now we are just hoping that all these tie-ups, everything which we have done, we are trying to bring it into Southeast Asia as well, and just trying to see that how the entire thing works together and all. So just a very quick share on that part as well.
Sujit, we have an audience question. This is from Shilpi Arora. How will the increased importance of AI affect the job market? Will it cut down jobs?
Common question. Samir, you want to take that?
I think with the shift of enterprises using digital technology, AI, I wouldn't say it is going to reduce the number of jobs. What definitely I personally see is some of those repetitive tasks, some of those deterministic operations that are happening, and which are, by the way, not really the most exciting jobs to do as well. In the near-term future, definitely those jobs will be done by robots. I think RPA, robotic process automation, is definitely a thing right now. And many of those rule-based, task-based, input-output driven jobs will definitely be automated. But I am of the opinion that this is where the opportunity lies for all those. I think the IT industry in specific, there is a great opportunity. The pace at which the industry is moving gives us all an opportunity to continuously learn new things, upgrade our skills. And it is quite easy these days. If you look at AI in the learning industry itself, LAS, learning as a service, you could have a new skill being picked up at the comfort of your home. easily. And with that, there lies a great opportunity for all those who want to pick up the new skill and experience better work rather than doing some of the jobs which were repetitive in nature. But having said that, there is going to be an impact of AI overall in the job market. It is about using it as an opportunity and be prepared. There's no debate whatsoever. IT industry specifically, if I have to talk about, is going to see a rapid change. And I personally, I'm looking at IT industry to become sort of learning institutes or universities where it will become common that you have to continuously go back to the classroom, the virtual classroom, and make sure that you are upgrading your skills and be ready for the future. And that's how I think the human endeavor will evolve when it comes to the job market.
Okay. Nitin, which is the sustainability project that you have implemented or you've been part of an implementation which you're most proud of? Nitin, you're muted.
Yes. There are actually quite a few, and again, it cuts across, I mean, if we had to talk about sustainability projects, so we have essentially 4 or 5 buckets. We have projects which relate to sustainable IT, where we're talking about cloud, we're talking about, reducing data centers, emissions and all. We're talking about sustainable supply chain operations. We talk about setting up an organization's net zero climate strategy and laying the foundation. We're talking about making and designing sustainable products itself, new type of products. I mean, before COVID, the in thing, especially in NCR, was the air purifiers, right? And Philips and, the likes, made a huge killing and all. One of our acquisitions, which is Frog, which is the leading designing company, across the globe, which also designs Apple phones, by the way. They ended up designing sustainable air purifiers using coir and, biodegradable product and all. I mean, so it cuts across. I mean, there's no favorites and all, but everything now which we are doing, there is an absolute sense that this project, how is it meeting the sustainable goals? I mean, say for example, if we were doing a supply chain project and we were doing a network optimization, as to where the trucks leave from point A to point B, and how they should be carrying load, et cetera, some logistics optimization and all. And if we were able to reduce the number of turns or the amount of load which they were carrying, whether they were going ballast or they were going full, I mean, that itself is adding to the sustainability aspect. So earlier, before this word came in, we used to call it as network optimization, but now it's sustainable supply chain. So I mean, there are tremendous, and there are innumerable examples and all, across, where Capgemini is now working and all, and we are a part of quite a few, so it cuts across life sciences. So we are working with, say, Novartis and Sanofi. In one area, we are working with, a couple of energy clients in Norway, designing their energy management systems. And the list goes on. I mean, automotive, is a big example, what we are doing with, probably with Volkswagen, with BMW and Mercedes. I mean, yesterday only, we kickstarted a project, with the trucks division of a major OEM. And we are talking about autonomous driving there, and how it's going to, build about fuel efficiency and all. So lots of projects to be proud of.
Any data points that you can provide that an implementation happened and then the company saved so much of carbon or whatever?
Right. There are actually quite a few. If Chandra can just take over, I'll just pull out a slide, which will again give you some numbers and all. And okay. I'll just come to that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Plenty of data points available to
Plenty of data points available. Initially, when somebody used to implement an ERP system like an SAP or an Oracle, they used to say that, the order to cash cycle is now reduced by 15% or 23% or whatever and all. I mean, similarly, on these aspects, if I had to take sustainable IT and if I had to take some emission numbers, and probably, Sameer can probably pitch in there as well. I think 23 to 27% emission reductions is what we have seen, just by the adoption of cloud, for example,
Really? Okay.
or in devices, for example, we have a policy within CAP, where we have to shut down our laptops every night, instead of just doing a standby. And that itself saves, some amount of carbon emission, which is happening. But let me just pull out some numbers, in the meanwhile, if you have time.
Samir, you must also be measuring all of these impacts, I guess, right?
Well, I think within the automobile space, it is our objective to reach zero carbon, and it is being extensively measured on a regular basis. I think apart from that, what is important is the clean energy, the sources of energy, where it is coming from. There needs to be an ecosystem, there needs to be a shift in the policy framework across governments all over the world to make sure that we have clean energy. I mean, at the end of the day, you move to electric vehicle, but if the electric vehicle is being powered by energy which is coming from fossil fuels, how it's going to help? It's important that there is a mindful shift towards clean energy, and that is exactly what will make sure that we are creating a world which is sustainable, which is going to help have meaningful lives for future generations. So a lot of effort from a zero carbon emission standpoint, like Nitin stated, migrating to cloud, where you reduce the consumption of electricity in a conscious manner, you reduce your physical hardware and convert to virtual hardware. These are some of the ambitious programs that have been running. Along with that, if we focus on clean energy development, I think that will go in a long, long way to overall help the sustainable growth.
Okay. Nitin, you found the data, or?
Exactly. I'll probably, push it across. I'm just getting some cost saving numbers and all, but I'm not getting the exact numbers and all.
Yeah, in the last discussion that we had with Capgemini on cloud, I think it was Neelam or somebody who mentioned that cloud provides almost, 30%, if I'm not mistaken, she said.
Yeah, which is where I was mentioning the 23 to 27%. I wanted to be a little bit more conservative on it.
Okay. But there's this question from Uday Ram. I don't fully understand it. How dependable are AI-based systems currently? If any disturbance occurs in the middle of the work, is it possible to correct it within a few minutes? Chandra, did you get that?
Yeah, I did not understand the later part of the question, but the dependency of dependability on the systems is, like we have to take the recommendations made by the AI systems only to augment your intelligence rather than replacing the intelligence, right? That means I'm going to take that the recommendation from the AI systems and then take a call on it rather than myself going with the entire data and searching for the evidence.
Okay.
So there is always the risk of going wrong sometimes, but the probability, a percentage of wrong recommendations must be lower. That means it all depends upon how much training data you have given, what is the quality of the data that you have given to build that system.
Okay. It was asked when, things like when the pandemic suddenly hit and all the data would have changed for, let's say, the Swiggies and the Zomatos and all that, then how quickly can you redo the entire algorithm?
Yeah, that's not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
That's not a big deal. Reason is that even though the disruptions happen, the algorithm and the process of developing the recipe is already there, right? The way or the measures or the process to build an AI system is already established. What is changing is only the new data is coming in. So you can quickly build it. That's how we have seen a lot of tools coming in the last, in the last year, in the mid of 2020 is when the pandemic has hit India, right? At that time, we have seen a lot of AI tools coming in and giving recommendations, and people started, adopting AI wherever possible, right? So it's not that difficult to rebuild the systems quickly.
Okay, it's not.
Yeah.
So Samir also.
Even AI is brought to build another AI system. That means AI is building the other AI system. So that is also automated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We are 4 minutes past 7. Nitin, did you want to show something or no? No, it's okay. Yeah. So Shilpa, any more questions?
No more questions. Thank you.
Okay. No, great. I mean, much needed subject, and I can see. I mean, governments, of course, and companies particularly talking a lot about sustainability now. The two companies that you represent, Volkswagen and Capgemini, of course, German and French. I mean, Europe is by far, I think, ahead of most countries. I think when it comes to sustainability issues, environment particularly. And as I mentioned before the thing, before the webinar, Capgemini's campus in Whitefield, I know, has various sustainability certifications and all that. Yeah. So thanks a lot. Great having you on a program. Samir, Chandra, Nitin, thanks a lot for being here and sharing your views.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.